CWPA Remote.
Hi, I'm Ed Hawes, Director of Communications for the Collegiate Water Polo Association, and this is the CWPA Remote. With us today are both head coaches of Salem University, men's coach Rob Bullion, and women's coach Justin Kassab. Nice to have you guys here today with us.
Good to talk to you.
Well, let me start with the first question. I want the two of you to talk a little bit about how you got into water polo, what brought you here, what brought you to Salem University.
Justin, you want to go first? So my start in water polo was a little bit later than most. I didn't start until my sophomore year of high school. I was a soccer goalie my entire life, and then in high school, my freshman year, I got cut from the high school team, and I still play and travel. And one of my best friends to this day, Sean Kassab, was on my travel squad. And summer going into sophomore year, I wasn't sure what I was going to do sports-wise, and they were going to make him the goalie. He didn't want to be the goalie for the water polo team, so he talked me into coming and trying out. Then from there, went on to Slippery Rock back when they still had a varsity program. Unfortunately, didn't get to finish my time there because they cut it while I was there. But then spent a lot of my 20s coaching age group in high school, and one day kind of decided I wanted to see if I could move up to the college level, see what I could do there. Called this guy up, said, I see you have a position. He interviewed me on a Wednesday. I started on a Monday, and I came on as an assistant coach 4 years ago. And at the end of that first year, I was lucky enough, Salem was looking to bring back women's water polo. So I just happened to be in the right place at the right time for that.
All right. Rob?
So luckily for me, I have been exposed to the college water polo scene my whole life because of my father. He coached at Buffalo State College, Grove City College, and at Salem. So I ended up playing all over the place. I played in Rochester, I played in Erie, I played in Pittsburgh. I ended up developing a good relationship with Don Sherman in Erie, and I ended up playing for him again for 4 years. The water polo program at Salem was holding on by a thread during my college career, waiting for a coach to really put the investment in to make the program what it was in the past. And I wouldn't say that I got the job because of who I know, but my father was the AD at the time, but I don't believe it was a very desirable position at the time. And basically I was told, bring the program back or we're considering getting rid of it. So a lot of time and effort and frustration has been put in, but I think that we have turned both our men's and our women's program into top programs on the East Coast. And credit is to this guy, credits to past assistants we've had, and obviously the players. I mean, the players have worked their butts off to get the recognition, to earn the acknowledgments that they've got.
All right. I should point out one thing. Salem University used to be known as Salem International University. Before that, Salem Tokyo University. So while your former name had a big connection to international students, and obviously recruiting is the lifeblood of any college sports program. So how do you go about recruiting for the two programs from both your perspectives? And also, how do you interact with the international students, especially recruiting students that come to West Virginia, which, if you're overseas, may not be the easiest thing. I mean, culture-wise, they see New York, they see LA, maybe they see Texas, but, West Virginia can be kind of a culture shock when you show up in West Virginia. So how do you recruit to Salem, and how do you interact with the international students?
I would say that the better question is, where don't we recruit, as opposed to where do we recruit? We do a very good job of tag teaming, hitting as many places as we can, both in the United States, and I've actually gone overseas to Europe to recruit as well. We have a very unique academic system, which works well for a student athlete with our one class per month. So although we're not a campus that is in a major city, with all the travel that we do during the year, it really benefits a student athlete. But I think the big sell that we have is to any student coming from anywhere is, yes, you're coming to West Virginia, but you're going to be on a campus that's very diverse, from people from all over the world, all different religions, races, every single place in the world. I think we've tapped into, and it's a very cool environment. We're very open to listening to everyone's cultures and really seeing where everybody comes from. I tell recruits that you could be in the dorms and just walk down the hallway and travel the world, which is pretty impressive in that aspect. But Justin, do you have anything to add?
Just to kind of add to that one, for Easter, not this past year, obviously for COVID, but the year before, we had 13 different countries and 7 different states at my house for Easter dinner. So it really is a crossroads of the world. And you were saying earlier, it's kind of a culture shock for West Virginia. I honestly believe that's more of a shock for a domestic athlete, because just West Virginia, I'm a Pennsylvanian. I've made fun of West Virginia my entire life, which from living here now for 4 years, I really regret, because it is a pretty awesome state. But from an international perspective, it doesn't have that same stigma that we've given it from the state. And hopefully we're looking forward to starting up some nation with water polo here in the future, so that should get us a little more recognition on the map in the water polo world and make that a little bit easier on the domestic side. But I think we tallied it up. We covered something about 50,000 miles last year in our recruiting sprees. We try to get to every single pocket we can. And like Rob was saying, if one of us is there, like we always work it out that one of us can get everywhere. There's not a whole lot we miss.
You're right. Obviously, Salem is Division II. The majority of NCAA programs are either Division I or Division III. So you kind of fit into the niche in between with Gannon and Mercyhurst, yourselves, McKendree, at least on the East Coast, and then obviously on the women's side with WWPA. What advantages does Division II offer you as an institution, and how do you recruit to Division II rather when you're competing at schools that are in Division I and Division III? What advantages do you have, and what do you offer those schools can't?
We really get the best of all worlds. So prior to our season ending this year, my girls have played 23 games. 15 of them were Division I opponents. I think Rob would agree with me. Just because we have a D2 label, we train, we compete, and we treat ourselves like we're Division I. I feel like we're a team that Division I's are afraid to play because of that. Like nobody wants to lose to the D2 team. And we went 8-7 against Division I teams this year for our women's team. So there's a lot of D1s that aren't too happy about that. But the perks are we kind of get the advantages of the D1, but we get to be a little more laid back like the D3s. So a kid who wants to still work a summer job and doesn't want to spend all summer on campus training, it's a good appeal. We're more flexible in our schedule. We're not as rigid in that sense. So we kind of get the pros and cons of both sides of the fence. So it's a really good location to be in on that.
And the same on the men's side. I mean, I try to put at least half of our schedule against Division I opponents. I know that the gap is a little different, but honestly, the only difference that I think we deal with when going from Division II to Division I is the size of school. And we don't have football. We don't have big-time basketball, but our basketball team in Division II is actually very good. So it's a very cool athletic environment on campus because it's a very athletic-driven campus. So the amount of support that we get on campus is pretty good. I know that most of the teams don't like the crowd that we have at home and sometimes have travel with us. So it does make things interesting at the different events as well.
Well, you're obviously in West Virginia. Gannon isn't that far away. Mercyhurst isn't that far away. So there's a natural rivalry between those 3 Division II programs. How do you view Mercyhurst and Gannon, and is there a natural rivalry between those programs during the course of a year?
Honestly, I think that the amount of times we play in a year, between conference games, between invitationals, and between Division II championships, when things always get interesting, it seems like.
And again, I'd throw McHenry in there. I'd say we have just as big of a rivalry with them as we do with Gannon and Merciers. And the games definitely get interesting. And every year, for the past at least 4 years, it's been a toss-up of who's going to take the Division II championship and who's going to contend for the Western Division title as well. So I would say the games always get interesting. There are always games that are on our schedule that we're looking at. We're looking at how we need to prepare for it, what we need to do. But I think it's good for the sport. I think it's good just for seeing if we can get D2 to grow a little more.
On the men's side this year, you had your first academic All-American with Milos Popovic, which put you in select company with Harvard, which had an academic All-American, and MIT, which also had an academic All-American in water polo. So you're in select company from an academic standpoint. How do you balance the time that the athletes are in the water versus the time that they're in the classroom and focus on that?
Well, again, Milos has deserved everything that he's gotten accolades-wise in his career, both in the classroom and out of the classroom. He's worked his butt off since he's been here from day one. But I'd like to say both on the men's and women's side, we've put a major emphasis on making sure that our kids are not only getting it done in the water, but they're getting it done in the classroom. Between our study table sessions and between just the way our classes are delivered here at the school, we have one class a month. So it gives the student athlete the best opportunity to focus on each class and to be able to balance their time. We're never going to schedule practices during class times, and we don't have classes on Friday, and that's usually a travel day for us, so it really makes things work well. We have a healthy relationship between our student athletes and the teachers. Communication is always key, but I think that it helps a lot. And this guy actually works in our academic department as an English professor, so having him on staff also doesn't hurt too much either.
Right. So with that, it's one of the perks of being such a small school. By the end of their first class, every professor knows who the water polo kids belong to. So if one of our kids is even slacking a little bit, if they're any type of trouble, I'm going to have a knock on my office door by the end of the day. So it's nice to just have that ability to immediately be in contact with the other professors and just be there to help the kids make that transition into college.
All right. We'll conclude with the question that I love to ask at the end of these things. You've both been coaching now for a little bit. What is one piece of advice you would offer to someone, or at least offer to yourself if you could travel back and talk to your former self when you were starting out? One piece of advice in terms of a thing you didn't know when you started out that you know now and wish you had known when you started.
I would say that don't be afraid to make a mistake. Every school is different. Every team is different. Every dynamic is different. If you think something's going to work, go forward with it. But also don't be afraid to take advice from other people. There's never a right way to do something. And just because you've always done something a certain way doesn't mean there's not a better way to do something.
Yeah, my big piece similar to that is don't be afraid to reach out. I wish in my early 20s I'd have had more courage to reach out to college coaches and see if I could have moved up sooner. But at the college level, one of the greatest things when I got the head coaching position, Todd Clapper at Arizona, he's a Slippery Rock grad as well. He's one of the first people I reached out to. And once I overcame my fear of reaching out to other coaches, being afraid that it's kind of like that, I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm doing. Once I got over that and had the courage to ask more people for help, things grew a lot faster for me. So I think that'll be my big thing is don't be afraid to ask for help.
All right. With that, we'll conclude. Gentlemen, thank you for doing this for us, and good luck this upcoming season.
All right. Good talking to you.
Nice talking to you.